is a horror movie that is said to be 10 times more terrifying than Gonjiam. It is believed that when this movie was released, it scared tens of thousands of viewers so badly that many fainted in fear. Friendly warning, the entire movie is full of intense and frightening moments. It is strongly suggested to watch this movie with friends who love extreme horror. There is a strange phenomenon said to exist in nature. When a person's brain waves reach 0.0 megahertz, it is believed that evil and impure entities are attracted to them. This rumor caught the attention of a paranormal investigation group. To find new content, they decided to visit the most mysterious and creepy village nearby. 4 years ago, a horrifying incident took place in this village. It is said that a mentally unstable woman, filled with hatred, ended her life by hanging herself. When the villagers arrived at the scene, her body was already badly decomposed. Her neck had separated from her body, and only her head was still swinging on the rope. The sight was extremely terrifying. After this incident, the house began to experience frequent paranormal activity. The villagers had no choice but to invite a witch to perform a ritual to remove the evil presence. They stood in a line and prayed sincerely. However, shortly after the witch began the ritual, she suddenly stopped her movements. She slowly turned her head and discovered in horror that the door behind her had opened by itself. To remove the evil spirit, the witch continued the ritual and entered the room, but the very next moment, the door slammed shut violently. The villagers were so frightened that none of them dared to speak. They stared at the door in silence, afraid that something terrifying might come out. Soon after, a horrifying scream echoed from inside the dark room. Worried about the witch's safety, the villagers nervously opened the door. At first, they did not notice anything unusual, but when one of the women looked up, they saw the witch hanging from the ceiling beam. Her face was twisted, and her eyes were blood red. From that day on, the house became a truly cursed and deadly haunted house. Anyone who stepped inside would die mysteriously without exception. Even though the events were so strange and terrifying, some fearless people still wanted to uncover the truth. To collect material, the paranormal group decided to drive to the village. They joked and laughed along the way, clearly not taking the trip seriously. However, a girl named Xiaomei, who was a descendant of an exorcist family, behaved strangely. When the group stopped at a shop at the foot of the mountain, only she saw a little girl with bloodstains on her legs. After entering the shop, the girl disappeared without a trace. When the shop owner heard that they were going to the haunted house, he strongly warned them, but no matter what he said, the group refused to listen. As they drove away, Xiaomei saw the little girl once again. Soon, they arrived at the haunted house. 4 years had passed, and the place had become an abandoned building. The only thing that had not changed was the deep and chilling evil aura. The house was filled with dust, and its structure felt very strange. The stove pit was clearly less than 2.5 meters deep, yet it felt like a terrifying bottomless hole. The others could not sense anything unusual, but the moment Xiaomei arrived, she felt a strong sense of unease. She looked toward the room where the mad woman had hanged herself. The next second, Xiaomei was so scared that her entire body began to tremble, but this was only the beginning. Later, she went to the back mountain to calm herself. By accident, she stepped into a mysterious ritual formation. Suddenly, violent winds began to blow. The forest started spinning wildly, and Xiaomei felt intense dizziness rush into her mind. It felt like she would faint and fall to the ground any second. When Xiaomei returned, she seemed like a completely different person. Her friends were happily grilling meat in the yard, but she sat silently at the door without saying a word. After that, they discussed holding a spirit summoning ritual that very night. They believed that if they could capture a ghost on camera, their club would instantly become famous. But after hearing their plan, Xiaomei felt a strong sense of bad luck. At that moment, she seemed to understand what had happened to her in the forest earlier. She realized that if they stayed in this place any longer, it would surely cause something even worse. Thinking this, she tried to warn them and asked everyone to leave immediately. However, Da Zhuang did not take her seriously at all. He thought Xiaomei was just talking nonsense, so the matter was ignored, and no one listened to her. But no matter what, Da Zhuang could never imagine that those few careless words would soon make him pay a terrible price. Soon, night arrived. They installed cameras nearby and placed a brainwave device on Yu Rong's head. They hung a doll, prepared raw liver, and made Yu Rong lie between the two. They believed that this way, the evil spirit would possess his body. Then they scattered rough words and curses around Yu Rong to trap the evil spirit so it could not escape. After everything was prepared, the ritual officially began. They waited for a long time, but nothing happened. Just when they thought the ritual had failed, something suddenly occurred. After a moment of violent struggling, Yu Rong instantly returned to normal. Everyone was shocked, but it turned out that this was only his prank. Hearing this, everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief. But messing with things like this never ends well. Their ignorant and fearless actions had completely angered the evil spirit. Late at night, around midnight, Da Zhuang walked into the yard half asleep to relieve himself. Suddenly, he heard strange bird sounds near his ears. Cold winds began blowing behind him. He immediately raised his flashlight to look around and was terrified to see a strange bird standing not far away. The bird flew ahead, and Da Zhuang chased after it. Without realizing it, he reached the fire pit area. In the blink of an eye, the bird disappeared without a trace. Da Zhuang felt a little disappointed. He thought that if he had managed to record that bird, he would definitely have gone viral. But what happened next was even more shocking. Shortly after returning, he noticed that Yurong's brainwaves were dropping at a speed visible to the naked eye. Very quickly, they reached 0.0 hertz. Then, as if something had possessed him, Yurong suddenly opened his eyes. He stood expressionless in front of Da Zhuang, like a living corpse. Seeing this, Da Zhuang's eyes widened in fear. He worried that something terrible had happened to Yurong and rushed toward him. But the next second, Da Zhuang suddenly woke up. Thankfully, it was only a dream. However, everything he experienced in the dream seemed to have actually happened in real life. The room door was still open, and Yurong had completely disappeared. Seeing this, Da Zhuang immediately gathered everyone and searched for Yurong together. Luckily, not long after, they found him in the kitchen. Tiezhu thought Yurong was joking and told him to go back to sleep quickly, but Yurong slowly turned his head back, trembling. With a sharp cracking sound, Yurong suddenly fell flat on the ground. He started running around wildly, like a mad dog with no control. The next moment, he jumped headfirst into the pit and began crawling inside in a crazed state. Seeing this, the two men rushed forward and tightly grabbed Yurong's legs. They pulled him out with all their strength and slowly managed to drag him back. But the moment he was pulled out, they were shocked once again. They saw that Yurong's face was already covered with countless strange hairs. After seeing this scene, the two men lost all their calm. They were so scared that they could not even move. What they did not know was that something even more terrifying was about to happen. Just as the evil spirit was about to take Yurong away, everyone gathered their courage and lifted heavy stones to smash open the pit. Because of this, Yurong narrowly escaped death. After that, the group decided to flee from the place overnight. But Xiaomei, in her weak and half-unconscious state, forced herself to speak and warned them to burn the doll completely. She said that if they did not destroy it, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, the situation was difficult. Both men had to take care of Yurong, and Xiaomei was still unconscious. So this task was given to Da Zhuang. When Da Zhuang took the doll, his anger kept growing. He remembered his secret feelings for Yurong, and how he had just been ordered around by everyone. In the end, he put down the lighter and threw the doll directly into the pit. But because of this moment of impulse, terrible consequences were about to fall on everyone. First, while Xiao Shuai was sleeping at home, the cabinet door beside him slowly opened on its own. It felt as if he was trapped in a horrible dream. He kept struggling on the bed. Suddenly, Xiao Shuai woke up in shock. To his horror, he saw his brother, who had died many years ago. His brother's eyes were dark, his face covered in blood, and he was tightly choking Xiao Shuai's neck. In reality, this was a strange dream inside a dream. Next came Da Zhuang, the creepy man. After Taizhu left his girlfriend's hospital room, he quickly pulled the curtain shut and began touching Yurong's body. Things went too far when he even leaned in to kiss him. But unexpectedly, the bad smell from his mouth disturbed the evil spirit hiding inside Yurong. The evil spirit immediately spat out strands of hair and tightly wrapped them around Da Zhuang's mouth. A few days later, Yurong finally woke up. After Xiaomei and Xiao Shuai heard the news, they rushed to the hospital to celebrate. The four of them chatted together, as if nothing had ever happened. But that very night, when Tiezhu was about to go home, his emotions suddenly went out of control. In the next moment, he crashed straight into the roadside. The true cause of all this was Yurong himself. Once night fell, the evil spirit took over his body and began harming everyone. Slowly, he walked up to Xiao Shuai and spoke in a familiar tone, talking about their childhood memories. As the scene shifted, Yurong suddenly transformed into the appearance of Xiao Shuai's brother. At that moment, guilt and regret flooded Xiao Shuai's heart. He believed that he was responsible for his brother's death. Overwhelmed by pain, he decided to end everything by hanging himself. Fortunately, while reviewing the old recordings, Xiaomei noticed something strange. She realized that after returning from the haunted house, Yurong had been possessed by the evil spirit the entire time. She rushed there immediately and managed to save Xiao Shuai's life. As their friends kept dying one after another in strange ways, they finally understood the truth. They should have listened to Xiaomei from the beginning. They should never have entered that cursed house. But the tragedy had already happened, and regret was now useless. Their only option left was to return to the haunted house once again and perform a ritual to seal the evil spirit forever. Only then could they save their own lives. Because of this, Xiaomei decided to risk her own life and perform the ritual herself. Then they called an old woman to help them. This old woman was the same person we saw at the beginning of the movie. She was Xiaomei's grandmother. Earlier, it was the grandmother's ghost who protected Xiaomei. That is why nothing bad happened to her. Now that her granddaughter was in danger, even if Xiaomei did not call her, the grandmother would still come to help. After that, they went to the trader's haunted house. At the same place, they started the ritual again. Soon, Xiaomei began chanting the spell. The room started shaking violently. The grandmother's spirit possessed Xiaomei and helped her complete the ritual. After a short time, a strange and creepy laugh of the Holy Spirit came from inside the house. Yulong's eyes turned white again. Hearing this, Xiaomei became very angry. She picked up the mugwort plant and started hitting and scolding the evil spirit, trying to force it out of Yulong's body. But the harder she attacked, the more terrifying Yulong became. She began flying wildly around the room and accidentally crashed into the ritual fire bowl. Inside the fire bowl was the doll that Da Zhuang had failed to burn earlier. Because of this collision, Xiaomei slowly regained her self-awareness. Yulong vomited a large amount of black liquid, but just as Xiaomei came back to her senses, a cold wind suddenly blew out the candles. The room instantly fell into complete darkness. She carefully picked up the flashlight and searched everywhere for Yulong. She rushed forward, grabbed her, and angrily ordered the evil spirit to leave Yulong's body. But facing Xiaomei's helpless rage, the evil spirit only smiled and said nothing. Seeing no movement in the room, Xiao Shuai could not hold himself back and walked in to check. What he saw completely shocked him. Xiaomei was tightly choking her brother's neck, and her brother was desperately asking Xiao Shuai for help. Seeing this pitiful look, Xiao Shuai instantly lost control and rushed forward, pushing Xiaomei to the ground. While the two were struggling, the evil spirit slowly revealed its true form. After Xiaomei's shouting and persuasion, Xiao Shuai finally regained some control. But when he turned around, the evil spirit had already left Yulong's body. What appeared before them was a terrifying monster, a human head with red glowing eyes. Yulong had just woken up and was terrified by this horrible scene. At this moment, their only goal was to escape as fast as possible. But as Xiao Shuai took one step forward, the evil spirit violently dragged him away. Xiaomei tried to save him, but the door suddenly slammed shut. She used all her strength and finally managed to open the door. But as soon as she entered, she saw that Xiao Shuai had been dragged into the stove pit. Before being dragged in, Xiao Shuai accidentally picked up the doll. To save her companion, Xiaomei used her last bit of strength and burned the doll with a lighter. Luckily, after this terrible incident, Xiao Shuai survived. After that, nothing strange happened to them for a long time. But one day, when Xiaomei checked Xiao Shuai's computer, she accidentally discovered something extremely creepy. It turned out that everything was not over, because at the final moment when Xiao Shuai burned the doll, the evil spirit seized the chance and possessed Xiaomei's body instead. Just as Xiaomei was completely shocked, a hand suddenly appeared behind her. Something was different. That's it for today's story. See you in the next episode.